you turn to page 25 in your manuals, we're going to talk about how you classify contact types. So you've got the name, you've got some of their information. Now you want to try to figure out from a categorizing possibility, what are their needs? And if I can start there, then that's going to help me in terms of being able to target them for specific things. So if you looked at types, so you've got things like buyer, seller, sales representatives. Why would you put sales representatives in your database?
Publishers.
What?
Publishers.
Also, marketing your own listings. but I like where you went with that. You're being intentional. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, if you were sitting at a listing presentation with somebody that called you from your database, and one of the things you say is, beyond MLS, in my own personal database, I have over 120 West End agents that are amazing at what they do. And each of them are working with 10 to 20 buyers at any given time. So not only am I going to market to the Toronto Real Estate Board membership, but I have personal relationships with these agents. They like us, they trust us, they know that what we tell them about a property is accurate. So I'm also going to be reaching out to them to make sure that they see not only your listing pop up on MLS, but it's now coming into their email, it's going to be on their Twitter. They're going to think of us before they start trying to figure out where else their own clients can log. Is that something that you think is going to help you in your listing? The answer will be yes. And you've now said, in another way, anybody else that's interviewing for this listing, I'm going to be talking to them anyways. They're going to be working for us anyways. So we're still the best one.
For the agents that they're talking about, do you keep them on top producer, or is there a way of doing that on top producer?
Categorized as realtors, then we break out where they are. There's any number of different things. So again, from a recruiting point of view, you can send them the training calendar, and now you just pull West End realtors. They're all there. You send out an email. Hey, don't know if you guys know, Julie Kinnear is doing this amazing presentation next month on listings. And you invite them out. But again, for marketing your own properties, for being able to reach out to them, like have real relationships with them. If you've got a buyer that's got a difficult kind of scenario, then pull that list from your database and say, I've got a buyer looking for something with a basement apartment, but they want it to be this, and this, and I'm pulling my hair out, and there's nothing on MLS. Do you have anything in your pocket? And somebody will likely come forward and say, actually, I'm going to be going to sign up these guys next week, and it's exactly what we're talking about. We are going to have it as an exclusive if you'd like to come see it. So again, when you're talking to buyers, that's a great value proposition as to why they should work with you over somebody else. I'm not only going to show you the things on MLS, I'm going to be working behind the scenes to see what hasn't even hit the market yet. Is that going to put you in a better position to be able to find the property you want? Absolutely it is. So, buyer's representation agreement with me now, let's sign that up. Okay. So classifying not just the types, but get into the groups. So what are the business relationships you have with these clients? Or what are the things that they're already involved in? So if you know them because you met them through hockey, then put them in the hockey group. So get all the other information, but now they're in tight hockey. And again, there's something you can do with that as sort of a fun, when you're trying to figure out 33 touch campaigns, and you know you've got different sports groups in your database as a category, what can you do that's kind of fun, and then pull up all the hockey parents, or all the kids that are in soccer, or whatever, and just do it. Hey, Toronto FC is having the best year they've ever had. Send it out. It's a fun touch, and it comes to them, and they know that you're thinking about them in a bit of a more personal basis. You always want to be, in terms of groups, categorizing where they came from. So how did I meet you? Open house, flyer call, sign call. All of those things become categories. So that A, you can target them specifically. B, you're now able to see, as you look at your database, You've now, we've done 1 or 2 deals. You are a past client, but I also want to know where did I first meet you, and what does that help me do?
Target market. Like, you know, when you're talking about you can't remember, how many people are in this database that you can't remember? What's an average database?
So it would really be based on the business you would want to do. So if you want to do 12 deals a year, and you're doing mostly haven't nets and then converting them into somebody, you need to have a database of about 400 to 500 people. And you need to be able to sort of, reach out to them on a regular basis. And out of that, you'll see, 12 things pop up. Our database right now, because we culled it. So we get bounce back emails and other things. We then go through a process where our admin people call up and say, so did you just change your email address, or do you not want to be here anymore? So we're at about 1,250 in our database.
That's total past clients.
That's a full-time job.
Real estate is a full-time
No,
job.
just
Yep.
managing your.
It's not. It's not.
How long did it take you to build that, please?
Well, I think it's how long it took us to pare it back to that. We at one point we were up over 2,000. So Irene's been doing this 25 years. I've been doing it 10. So somewhere, I think when I first started working with Irene at Home Life, she had a database probably of 400.
You've only been doing this for 10 years?
Yeah, I know. It looks like I've been doing it a lot longer. I genetically I don't have good skin. I'm not moisturizing like most people should be. So again, being able to know where they came from allows you as a business owner to then make marketing decisions. So if I can whip through my database and I can see that I'm meeting a majority of people 3 years earlier from an open house, then I know my open houses the skills are great. It means that I can then look to something else that's a little bit weaker and say, so my training stuff for this year, what do I want to do? And I can't rest on what I'm great at. So I've got to be able to constantly look to what skills do I need to build to keep doing this at this level all the time. So look at what you're good at and then flip it. Say, so clearly then it means I'm not very good at something else. I'm going to train for it, get the coaching for it, look to the people who are doing this in an amazing level, sit down with them, ask them for some support. And build a hugely balanced toolkit. Other groups you could put people into. And
I'm just wondering, you say you've got sort of 1,250 people in your, and that the minimum amount of phone calls you do is like twice a year. So, I mean, that becomes quite onerous, I would have thought. Not that most of us have probably got 1,200 people in our database. But.
So I think that's a really good sort of myth to poke a pin in. So 1,200 people, how many days in a year?
That
Do the division?
twice a year.
4 people a day?
Yeah.
Could I call 4 people a day? I have the time to do that. It's about being organized. It really is if it's doable, if all I have to do is call 4 people a day to stay in touch with my entire database, then the rest of my calls that day are to add people to the database. So I'm calling my past clients and asking for referrals. I'm calling people that I met over the weekend at open houses to do follow-up, to qualify them, to categorize them, to put them into the database, and then start them on the campaigns. Now,
So would your 1,200 then grow to, exponential of 1,500 if you keep doing the 10-10? Or are you then scrubbing it at the end to say, okay, I've done a year and these people are indifferent?
It's probably not every year, but we go through a scrubbing process. We're going to give it a couple years usually to see again, have they ever even responded to an email? And that's what we use as our scrub. So if over a 2-year period, if I've dripped on you in some way, shape, or form 66 times, and you have never once acknowledged them, I'm okay letting that go.
You take them right out of your database?
Yeah, yeah. And again, it may be that, you know, they got in and then changed their minds about wanting information. But if we get something back, we get a, hey, thanks for the newsletter. Good, that's contact, we're good. We'll stay in for a while.
So that person that you just talked about at the beginning, that you've driven for 15 years, there was something that
Yeah.
came back, or was it
Yeah, they
15
answer the
years
phone
ago?
and they chat. But if somebody lets every phone call go to voicemail and they don't respond to an email and, then at
Basically,
some
it's a
point
one-way
we'll say,
conversation.
okay, we're good, we'll move on.
How long before you let it go?
2 years. 2 years. The other thing we'll do in that, so again, and we're deliberate about this. So we will pull the list of people that we've had either no contact with or a bunch of bounce backs because they've changed an email address or whatever. Used to only be Bridget that did it, now we've got the two. So they'll go on to land registry. And if somebody's bought in that year, while we were talking to them and they never talked back, okay, they're done. Kick them out, and that's totally okay.
I just think one of the to clear something up, in the beginning you said you never let anybody go if they're breathing. And I think maybe the questions are coming. So I'm just wondering if you have sort of a place where, a basket where you put people that are, they're not too, because you don't want to let anybody go. I think the clarification.
Yeah, so again, if somebody has said, I don't want any information, then they don't get into the basket. If they have been in our farm and have been meh, then they go in the meh basket. And we work on them to see if we ever get any more of a, okay. And the reason why we differentiate in the farm is that our goal over the next year is to gain about 50% of the market share in our farm. So we've seen that activity as being a good one to determine our success. But if they're not in the farm and they're mad, then they're not in. If they haven't indicated any desire for any information at all, then they don't go in.
But why did
Anybody
it-
else that says, yeah, call me sometime, they're in. They don't have to be specific, they're in, they don't get out until they ask to be let out.
Yes, what part of the database would you feel comfortable delegating? Obviously, the front side, I see it as two parts. The input, again, there's details to be said, so you're the front person, I get that, I would delegate that part. But what part would you delegate, or do you feel in the whole data process? I mean, there's a lot of work, like I'm trying to keep up with this and throwing in, I'm building my data right now, or putting my contacts in a system, but I'm also working a deal right now, and it's I know there's other hours in the day, but as I can imagine, as you grow, to keep that thing going and feeding it and staying on top of it,
What
what can you delegate?
Yeah, it's kind of a multi-layered answer to that. So right now, if you are a single practitioner and you're starting to get busy, the database is yours anyways, and you don't delegate anything because you need to know that everything that's in it is totally accurate. So there are going to be some longer nights involved while you're doing that. Once you're happy with the predictability of your programs, then the data entry, there are a number of agents that start to say, you know what, I don't have the time to do that because I'm so busy with showings and everything else. So they'll go to either virtual assistants,
Yes,
so they'll buy an hour a week,
correct.
and they will just scan all of the paperwork and say, you put it in.
Yeah.
I think as a business owner, it would be irresponsible to not double check that. So to be able to just kind of run through it, you've already met the people, you wrote down their info. Now it only takes a minute to scan those 10 new entries and go, that's.
I don't want to input,
Yeah.
like, I know that down the road, I'm doing it now,
Yeah.
but I don't want to do this continuously.
Yeah, and then again, once you've started them on automated campaigns, either through eEdge or some of the other CRM systems, you don't really have to do anything because your assistant logs on in the morning and there's 12 activities that drop in. And it just says, so remember to send happy birthday cards to these, and that's their first hour, and they just knock that
So
stuff
once
out.
it's set up and going, then
Yeah.
there's more to delegate.
Oh, yeah. The funny thing is though, and this has happened to me a few times in the last couple of months. So I'll get a phone call, and it's one of my clients, and they say, "Hey, you know what? That was so thoughtful."
Oh, you didn't know about it. Yeah. What did I do?
Oh, the birthday card. Yeah, that was, yeah. Did it have a puppy on it? Or did you send the kid? Yeah, I don't know. Again, you do want to try to, keep some semblance of oversight through that.
I got a question about that. Do you have all your clients or your whole database in your phone? I'm guessing you don't, right? So how do you know who's calling you?
Well, so again, in our world, as people go into the database, Bridget will then put them into my Outlook, and then when I sync my phone to Outlook, it theoretically should populate at least the phone numbers and the names.
Yeah, okay.
But there are a lot that don't, and my phone's a little buggy with Outlook, so I do get unknown member, and I just play the wait for the name thing.
Yeah.
And typically I answer my phone, Philip Brown,
Yeah.
and they'll say, "Hey, it's John." Okay, good. I know who you are. Paul.
I think those kind of issues though, like, are possible to resolve in the actual systems, because like Top Producer, for example, you can link up with your Gmail account,
Yeah.
which then can link up with the contacts on your phone. So if you put something in Top Producer, it will go to your Gmail contacts, and then it will automatically be on your phone too.
Yeah. I mean, there's technology workarounds for most of these that are super easy.
In the Top Producer, the drip programs, they're all set up, the content, I mean, or other than birthdays and anniversaries and things like that.
Yeah, so again, in any of the automated systems, they have preset ones, but they all offer the ability for you to go in and customize them. So some people will just say, no, you know what you guys have is great. I'm just gonna run it. It's gonna send out 33 touches, or it's gonna send out 12 email touches, and I've gotta do 12 phone calls, and however it is you've decided to set up your touch campaign. What I find, and this was an issue both with Top Producer and eEdge, because Top Producer initially was sort of the tech partner with Keller Williams. So one of the advantages you had of going with Top Producer is that they had an entire library, and they still do, a huge library of KW branded pieces, but they're very American. So to send somebody something that 90% of the information is great, and then it says, at the end, so if you want to know anything about foreclosures and short sales, give me a call. You go, oh, there's no such thing. So yeah, but you can go into those and drop that out.
So
And
you
then-
pretty well use the drip programs in
Yeah.
Top Producer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Philip, sorry, will the CRMs indicate to you where there's been no activity? You said, you look and see if there's been nothing from them for 2 years. Does that come up in the information?
No, it's really sort of up to you to kind of go through and do a review of a block at a time and go, oh, yeah, I haven't heard anything.
So other than managing to a manageable database, so that, again, 27 years in business, you're not at 30,000, what does it matter if somebody hasn't touched, if you say, well, I'm not gonna phone call them, but a monthly newsletter, they haven't said unsubscribe, so what's the big deal of keeping going to do that?
Yeah, again, it really comes down to always being efficient with your time. So if I'm going to call 1,200 people once a year, that's different than having to call 4,000 people once a year.
Right.
So if there's a whole bunch of people who, again, have never responded to anything, knock them out. Keep
But
everything as efficient.
you wouldn't just put them into
They have never
here's a
responded
monthly
to
newsletter, but I'm
anything?
not gonna call them kind of thing.
No.
Okay, and then secondly, when you manage your date, like you said, 1,200 people, I'm gonna call them, whether the process is, hey, I'm gonna do my A's in the month of January or what have you, do you then plug that into your calendar?
Yeah.
So it gets these are the 4 people I have to call today because I spoke to them 6 months ago.
Yep. Yeah, everything links back to your calendar. Yeah, for sure. Nick, did you?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention about eEdge. People don't know what to use, Top Producer, eEdge. I use eEdge. And one great thing about that is if you have an eEdge website and you have your database in there, when the client actually goes to the website and they look at properties, you can actually see what they're looking at, and it'll actually tell you the last time they visited your website,
Yeah.
which is really good. And also with the drip campaign, say you put someone on a 33 touch, one of the drips might be call the person, and they'll actually give you the script to say to call the person with,
Yeah.
which is really awesome too.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, the technology just gets more and more seamless. You know, when people say, should I use eEdge or Top Producer, to me, eEdge right now, it's an amazing tool, and it takes from your KW website. So anybody that even looks up there, that then gets shot to eEdge, it gets put into your database. If anybody contacts you from any KW piece of technology, it all gets funneled into your database without you having to do anything. You know, I think that's an amazing value. So I want to take a quick 10 minutes. Think of, in terms of the types of clients that you've just written out in your sort of your fake database right now, but then also groups. So go back now and add as many of those kinds of types and groups to that list that you've started to build, just to get a sense of how many different ways you could then pull that information and use it in targeted marketing. So you've added the people, now you're going to type them and classify them.
So most people would then be in one or more types of groups.
Absolutely, absolutely. More than that. Okay, has everybody had a chance to take at least a shot at it? Had some success with it? That's good. So we're gonna talk about it now. So you know, going back from the very beginning of this morning. So you got on the phones, you worked, you started to create contact. Then we looked at different ways of managing that. So you make sure that every contact goes into a database. The database has to be set up in a way where you can qualify, categorize people by types and groups. Now, the whole point of having them in this database, you can have all kinds of people in it, but if you're not doing something with it, it's useless. It's all data input and no exercise out of it. So think back to the analogy at the beginning. So you build it, you plant it, you feed it, and now it's time to harvest it. So the harvesting comes in the form of campaigns. And when we talked at the very beginning of today's session about targeted marketing campaigns, in Keller Williams, that's what we mean when we talk about touching. It's just that. A touch program is a targeted marketing campaign. There are typically two types that we'll do. So we'll start off with what's called an 8x8. And you'll hear that in every sort of KW training forum. You'll read it in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It's something that you know gets tossed around like everybody knows what it is. Really, it's super simple. So if you look at page 29 in your manual, an 8x8 is a series of 8 touches in 8 weeks. It's a targeted marketing campaign if you were talking to advertising people. So it's an 8-week campaign where you touch everybody 8 different times. In terms of how you do that, the more personal, the better. So it's super easy to get into a bad habit of leaving a message and sending 7 emails. That's not a great touch campaign. So what you want to do is split it into personal visits, phone calls, some item of value. And remember, we keep talking about coming from contribution. And then handwritten notes. And why handwritten notes?
Everyone loves to get them.
Everybody loves them.
They don't check them in the garbage.
It makes you happy. Yes.
Do you handwrite the envelope too, like the address and your return address, or is that?
Yeah. There are programs around that do it for you, and it makes it look scripty and whatever. They also, in my mind, they do look like you're playing. And nothing is going to throw your whole campaign off more than somebody feeling like you're not being genuine. So be genuine, be personal. It's okay if the envelope has an ink smudge on it, because it means that you actually did write it yourself. So be as personal as you can. When to use it. The 8x8 is always the immediate campaign. So I've just met you, now we're gonna launch this. Conrad.
Items of value and dropping them off, are you scheduling this with them to drop it off, or are you just showing the impromptu?
I like to do both. So if we're going to be dropping something off, a touch is, hey, I'm gonna be in your neighborhood next Tuesday, meeting with a bunch of different people, I would love to drop something off. Are you gonna be around? And if they say, yeah, great. And if they're not, when they said they were, then you leave it there with a little note saying, sorry, I missed you. Here's, the market update I promised, or whatever the item is. But it's also totally okay to be out and say, you know what, I'm gonna be doing some stuff, and I've got dinner plans down there anyways. I'm gonna go at 4 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock. I'm gonna knock a bunch of people that are clients on that street and say, hey, I'm just going out to Suzer for dinner, was in the neighborhood, thought I'd pop by and say hi, because parking's easier earlier than it is later.
And what do you mean by item of value? Like monetary value or value to them?
No. So you will hear me say this in our business planning clinics and in everything we do. Lead with revenue. If you didn't make money, you can't spend money. So value really is value to the client. So what are some of the things that you can bring and lead with somebody that don't cost you anything to do, but are of value to somebody else?
Your knowledge.
Knowledge.
The market.
Last sales in the neighborhood.
Last sales in the neighborhood.
Market knowledge.
Market. What's happening in the market? What's happening with mortgage rates? What's happening with the Canadian dollar? Does any of that impact real estate decision making? 5 minutes, cut and paste.
So can you
Great Globe and Mail article that's talking about the new mortgage changes for 2016. Thought I'd bring it out to you so that you knew what was going on.
Can you just release the prices the homes just got sold, like freely without the consent of buyers?
That's a very, very good question. That's a very good question. So,
hey, this house just got sold for this price.
No.
I think I would be in
yes,
trouble.
no, you cannot do that. So the question is, can you just do a blanket? I'm gonna do 200 copies of what sold down the street, and I had nothing to do with the sale, but I'm letting people know. If you don't know whether or not the buyer and seller both agreed to the advertising of the details of that property, you cannot do that. What you can do is say to people, so wanted to let you know, house down the street sold for over asking. If you'd like to know what it sold for, here's my phone number, give me a call. If somebody asks you what something sold for, you're now providing information to a customer. And you are allowed to do that, but you cannot advertise it. Not without permission.
But you can carry the sheet, the guy who's put a cardboard sheet of them, and I can show them. Could I?
So here's how that conversation would go. Did you know the house down the street sold? Yes. Do you know what it sold for? No. Are you interested? Yes. Happen to have it with me. That's not advertising, that's providing information to a client. That is allowable.
But if it's not a
But
client.
you can't just drop it off. Well, as you're talking to them, they're a potential client. So I can give information, but I can't advertise and distribute.
So essentially you have to lead them to ask you the question instead of you volunteering the information, right?
Yeah.